Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. Welcome. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And with me today, I've got Americo Da Costa. And we're going to be talking about something that we've never covered before, which is about personal pivots. How do you suddenly change what you're doing in your life? Something that I actually did 8.5 years ago. And Americo is basically going to come on, is come on and talk about it. Americo, where can we find you?
Well, first and foremost, thanks, Tim, for having me. It's a delight to also learn that this is the first conversation we're having of this nature or this genre. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time with my audience. Simply looking me up by name, Americo Da Costa. You can also visit my website for organization that I branded Journey Logic. So www.journeylogic.ca. And one of those two will land conversation or at least a resource to learn more about me and my journey.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and why are we now talking about personal pivots?
Oh, the personal pivot. Let me tell you, it's something that catches many of us by surprise because it isn't something we traditionally plan for. We hear about it, we hear, when it happens to others, but we focus very little on, what, I'm not going to really think too much about it because what are the chances?
It won't happen to me, will
It
it?
won't happen to me. That's exactly it. It won't happen to me. I have a great education, landed myself a great career. My career is progressing really well. Like for instance, I spent most of my career in insurance, but when you encompass all of it, it's been financial services. I started in banking and transitioned into insurance, built a great part of my journey in cross-functional roles, and felt at a point like, all right, this is going really well, and you're drinking the company punch, and everyone likes you, and everyone believes in you, and you're being lifted and empowered, and everything feels utopic. Then all of a sudden, one day you're called in for a conversation, and it feels like you've been railroaded. You didn't see it coming until it actually happens, and you start scratching your heads like, well, I kind of could have did a better job. I should have seen the signs and the signals because they were there, you
And
know.
so you get made redundant, but surely you're going to go and get another job. And okay, so the market's hard at the moment, so it was going to take you a little longer than it would have done maybe 2 years ago.
Hey, here's the thing. So
And I'm being provocative.
no,
You're,
I get it. Hey, in the last 6 years, when you consider the market and you consider the pandemic, uh, I was exited and deemed redundant three times in the last 6 years.
right.
And I shared with you before we went live. Today marks 2 year anniversary since my last exit,
Mm.
and it's been quite the journey. You're absolutely right. The first time this happened, I walked into a role pretty much within weeks. So I didn't even blink an eye, and I was back in an office somewhere making an impact. This time, if I were to tell you, I have close to I must be hitting 60-page Excel spreadsheet, all the roles that I've applied for,
Wow.
and great conversations, being invited to interviews, and to some degree, great feedback. It's like, oh my goodness, you made it so difficult for us. You were the runner up, or and and then the explanations like, well, you're a lot of great skill, a lot of great breadth, a lot of great depth, but you're either too much of something or not enough of something to fit into the culture. And no one comes out and says it publicly, but I believe wholeheartedly that ageism is doing well. It is very vibrant when you hit a certain
So
age.
you would put down those no's probably to ageism.
I wouldn't put all the nose down to ageism, but I would definitely not rule out ageism. Definitely. Um, when someone says you're overqualified, that tells me it's like, all right, you're 20 years of experience. I'd rather invest, or I prefer to invest in teaching someone that that proverbial saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and
Yeah.
it reaches a point where people think you're that old dog, and you might not fit well. You might be that square peg that they can't fit into that round hole.
Yeah. So if this is so, the whole point of the conversation today is the fact that we're putting out we're positioning something to say that for a number of people, this is highly likely to happen to them.
Yeah, I can't say with confidence what the exact percentage is, but I can say the probability is that uh, safe to say that the probability is probably half of us, if not slightly over half of us, will experience this, and it's really about preparing and helping others, because that's the position I'm in now, is try to raise awareness
Mm.
around this vulnerability that may become part of our journeys.
And part of, I mean, one of the things I do about this podcast is it's about it's educational. It's about taking people's experiences like you and sharing that with other people, so they go, oh, that may be me. So if people are sitting there thinking this could be me in a few years, what should they be doing?
Okay, here's the first piece of advice I would say is invest, and don't turn your back on your own personal brand. You build a brand and credibility and authority in your corporate life,
Hmm.
uh, but if you're exited and you're deemed redundant, your personal brand must follow you. It's got to be a living, breathing persona.
So when you say a personal brand, um, quite often what people think is that because when we're in the office, everybody likes us, and people recommend us, and you got a job within weeks, and therefore, and we have this personal brand that we have around the office. But when it comes to putting it on digital, we often say we're scared, or we've got nothing to say, or this isn't me, because personal brands are about, hey, being shouty and look at me and stuff like that. What do you mean by personal brand?
Well, here's my interpretation of personal brand. Your personal brand is what defines you. You want to position yourself so that you're seen, heard, and remembered
On digital?
on the digital
Yeah.
landscape. And you know what? A lot of people believe, you know what? If I update my LinkedIn profile every time there's a role change, or every time I get a new certification and training, and that I've got that covered. Essentially, if you're not showing up consistently and sharing your thought leadership, so your personal brand is really about sharing how you view things and what value you bring to the landscape or the circle that you find yourself in. Um, Also, your personal brand, you want to be portraying an inclusive environment. Like if you put yourself in a silo and you close opportunities or discussions uh, to other opportunities, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you're just
I,
going,
I saw an example of that yesterday. I was on LinkedIn and someone put out a open to network post. I'm open to network, and they restricted comments,
yes,
but,
oh,
which is like, so I couldn't write under it. What I have, if I see anybody looking for a role, I always say sharing with my network, because it goes through my 36,000 network. Because she basically restricted comments, I couldn't write anything, so
yeah,
I couldn't help her.
yeah, and you can't even share feedback because that
No.
option's not even available.
Yeah, and there was and there's something else about personal brand as well. If you're in this position, which is, I saw someone, I was looking for a job, and I looked at their LinkedIn profile, and they had 124 contacts. Now, they were young, and quite often young people don't see LinkedIn as being applicable because it's old people with grey hair and stuff like that. But the thing is that the average person on LinkedIn has 930 contacts. So she was way behind in terms of her network. So the other thing about personal brand is about connecting to people, isn't it?
Absolutely. Listen, 2 years ago, I was at hovering around 2,400 contacts, but those contacts were predominantly people that I've worked with,
Yep.
vendors, people that were within arm's reach of what I was doing. And when you get downsized, as much as people want to help you, and as much as people go in and comment, comment for better reach, at the end of the day, it's no one's responsibility but your own
Mm.
to put yourself out there. And if you're going to connect and you're going to network, or you're open to the idea of networking, you can't just leave it at invite and accept. Those two clicks just isn't enough, right? You got to nurture your community. You got to get involved. You got to roll up your sleeves. Today I'm just shy of 8,400. It's grown at a great pace. I'm not going to lie to you. I've also, had to prune, because some people want to come into your network, and then you realize that just doesn't fit. But you can't give up. You got to keep that going. Look at how we came together. Here
Yep.
I am in Canada. Got introduced to you by a colleague,
So
uh,
Keith Keller,
Keith
who's
Keller. Yep,
in Melbourne in Australia, connected us.
that's right.
And that's Keith is always recommending people to come on this podcast. So, and it's like you've got to meet this guy, and this is one of the great things about personal brand. He was recommending you because you're a good person.
Yeah, and that's a great example of the importance of networking. Your personal brand, and I touched on it earlier. You want to be seen, heard, and remembered. So Keith and I have built a great virtual friendship. He openly invites individuals who he gets acquainted with. Hey, if you're ever down in Melbourne, let's get together and let's have a coffee. Uh, but that's because you meant something. You made an impact. Something that you said, something that you did resonated with him. And that's the power of LinkedIn. And a lot of people underestimate the power that this platform has. And
So that's if we're thinking that we may be at risk and that we need to pivot. Is there anything else that we can be doing in advance of that being called into that room? And
yeah, absolutely. I see a lot of people updating their profile saying that they're lifelong learners. You got to be able to not just say that you're a lifelong learner, but be willing to actually, whether it's opening up that book, opening up a website, continuously stay immersed in what is happening. Because your skills and my skills today are great, and for the most part, our soft skills kind of carry with us. But when it comes to technical skills, like everything moving so rapidly, and there's this apprehension and reluctance to embrace AI, for instance.
mm,
And if anyone who's continues and remains reluctant to embrace it, you're going to be left behind.
yeah,
It's not going anywhere. And to some degree, some people may have the opinion, so, well, I'm going to dig my heels in here, because if I embrace AI, it's just going to take my job at some point. Listen, if we get consumed by the what ifs, where would evolution be? Like, we'd be in the dark ages if we didn't embrace, adapt, and adopt change. It's a reality. Change is going to happen, and the quicker you get on board and be part of it, the the more successful you're going to be.
yeah. I heard someone say the other day that AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will.
Will, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? I use it. It's no shame in saying I use it to leverage my personal brand. I'm not saying that I'll have, for instance, a piece of content that I write created by AI, but I will write something and ask and enter a prompt. Hey, can you polish this for me? And have it read like, you provide a persona that you want it to sound like, or what, just check for syntax errors, because grammar is still a thing. um, so it's a tool, and we gotta realize the power and the capability that these tools offer. And I've I was one of those people who were reluctant. It's like, yeah, I have a job. It's coming. It'll help us, and I'll cross that bridge when they get to it. Well, that bridge has come. That bridge, I'm now have crossed that bridge, and now I need to find ways to if we go back to the whole pivot, I need to find ways to redefine myself. It took me a year to really build my personal brand. So it's also important for our listeners to realize like this takes time. You're playing the long game. Your personal brand, unlike charm, you can't just turn it on, put a smile on, and people are gonna gravitate and you know eat up what you've got to share with them. It takes time to build likability, trust in a virtual environment.
So I really wanted to come on to that in the last sort of 4 minutes in terms of what have you learned over the last couple of years in terms of your personal pivot, and what is it that you can share with people?
So what is it that I've learned? Uh, I just mentioned the timeline. It is not something that you can easily and quickly get to where you want. And when you do get it to where you want, my advice is don't shelve it. Right? That's not just set it and forget it. All right, it's where I want it. It's where I expect it to be. No, because what's acceptable today might not be what people are consuming tomorrow. So you always have to give yourself that willingness to be open to change. You know, constructive criticism is always something you got to be open to. And
Yep.
I found that LinkedIn, and I didn't realize it, the sense of community, the sense of generosity, and philanthropy. People openly, and these were all complete strangers at one point, but people are reaching out to you. Hey, would you like some advice? How can I help you?
Mm.
And it's like I had no idea
And,
that.
and people have good intentions. It's
Absolutely,
put your arm around.
absolutely.
They're digitally they're putting their arm around your shoulder, saying,
Yeah,
you know,
uh,
have you thought about this?
yeah.
And it may be that you have thought about it, but the fact is that they're being really generous in offering you advice, and it's lovely that people do this.
It is, it's beyond lovely. I didn't realize it, and now it becomes contagious, and that giving mindset is now part of my personal brand. I'll connect with someone, and I'll purposely say, hey, let's get down and meet. Let's have a virtual introduction. It's a pitch free conversation. I don't want to sell anything. I just want to learn more about you. I want to learn more about your journey and explore how we might be able to help each other throughout our journeys. And everyone just opens up and we have great conversations. And that's important. Take it beyond those invite and accept clicks, have conversations, and you'll be surprised as to how close we are to being introduced to our next opportunity, whether it is another job, whether it is just, uh, support of any nature, or for instance, in my position where my pivot is including, you know, entrepreneurism or I'm trying to build my brand and build a business at the same time. And it's, don't turn down any opportunity that anyone extends an invite to. Is
I think often with those conversations, people think it's all about pitching, and actually people forget that actually LinkedIn is a networking platform, and it's what old school networking, where you go somewhere and you'd say, ask questions like, when we went live, we went, so what's the weather like where you
Yep.
are? Well, I'm hoping the snow's going to clear out, and I was saying, oh, we don't have any snow here in London and stuff, and we just had a conversation, and we got to, and you talked about your daughter, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had a conversation about, and that's the thing. It's about conversation, and we got to know each other. And it may be I can't help you, but maybe I can. And I go, well, I actually know someone. You need to talk to this person.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the art and the science behind networking. Don't don't be that person with shallow vision or be short sighted. You know what? I'm in Canada. I can only, or I should only, meet with people within my geographical region. what's the point of reaching out and connecting with someone across the globe? It's like, well, hey, the world has become so small, and the internet has brought us all together within a small time frame. Keith is a perfect example. Australia, we got London and Toronto, and here we are. And if
I've had a conversation with Keith. I speak to Keith every single day. But I wake up in the morning and there'll be something from Keith, and I'll respond, and we've done it for maybe 4 years.
Yeah, and I'm on that same.
And he's probably having similar things to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're up to 20 minutes,
Okay.
America, but I just wanted to bring up some comments. So Marcia Watson basically says good morning. I know that's one of your contacts because it's come through as a paired channel. Now we very rarely get anybody coming in from X. So Igor basically saying nice was really good, but I want to finish on this, right? This is the piece de resistance. This is a comment from Marcia. This is a true statement about helping someone on LinkedIn. I have been the recipient of America's generosity.
Yeah, and there you have it.
And what better, what better thing for someone to say?
Yeah, it's. I want to thank Marcia. It is truly a testament of what I've learned throughout my pivot and what I've embraced. Not everything needs to be transactional. Not everything needs to be monetized. Helping people and just being generous. I'm a big believer of karma. Yeah, if you treat people with
you're
respect,
an inspiration. You inspire people.
Yeah,
and isn't that what we all want, is to be an inspiration to others?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. Where can people find you?
So once again, Americo Da Costa on LinkedIn. You will see my bright smile and my profile. If you want to have a discussion, feel free. I offer free conversations. Let's get to know each other, explore how we can support one another, or visit www.journeylogic.ca and learn more about my services and my professional journey.
Thank you so much for coming on talking about it.